Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to do my top picks for Netflix. So I did actually film this the other day and it just decided to delete itself, so thanks for that. However, the one that I did the other day was my top 10 and it was about 45 minutes long, so it's probably a blessing in disguise that it deleted because you guys would have been bored to death. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to do it in two halves. So I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2. My two top 5 Netflix picks. Yeah, if you get me. So I've literally got everything on my MacBook. I've done like a brief description on what it's about, and I've also added the critics because this is my top recommendations. So my recommendations might not be for everyone. So I thought if I had the critique as well, then it gives you guys a bit more idea of what they're about. Okay, so without further ado, I'm babbling on, so it's going to be 45 minutes long again. Let's just jump in. Okay, so I am going to be looking down a lot, as obviously I'm reading from my MacBook what I've researched. So my number 1, which is probably a lot of people's number 1 right now, is Tiger King. So Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem and Madness, titled on screen as simply Tiger King, is a 2020 true crime documentary miniseries about the life of Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage, otherwise known as Joe Exotic. To me, it's Joe Exotic. To you, it's probably Joe Exotic. I don't know anyone called Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage. Anyway, so the series focuses on the little known but deeply interconnected society of big cat conservationists and collectors in America, exploring the private zoos and sanctuaries they've set up for these unusual and deadly pets. Some eccentric characters include a former cocaine drug lord running a secret conservation facility. Jeff Lowe is a swinger and he sneaks cubs into high-end hotels for parties and to attract women. Tim Stark, the owner of the roadside zoo Wildlife in Need. And Bhagavan Doc Antle, an animal trainer who founded a 50-acre animal preserve in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. He also trains animals for Hollywood films as well. So it's kind of based on Tiger King, which is Joe Exotic, but these other guys kind of come into it who's also in the same kind of industry. The major conflict and emphasis of the series revolves around the contentious hatred between Joe Exotic and the flamboyant owner of the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park and Carol Baskin, the owner of the Big Cat Rescue. It is a lot about Carol Baskin. He has this hatred for Carol Baskin that is unbelievable. He hates this woman with everything he has. Carol Baskin alleges that Exotic's breeding programs, zoo and animal conditions, and the practice of charging visitors to pet the lions or the tiger cubs are abusive to the big cats. She makes it her personal mission to end the private big cat ownership in general, and Exotic's cobbled together private Oklahoma Zoo in particular. In turn, Exotic alleges conditions at Baskin's Florida rescue are subpar and that Baskin is waging a hypocritical campaign of focused harassment against him by creating websites naming him an animal abuser, hiring people or encouraging Peter to track his movements and damaging his sources of income by likewise badgering potential clients. Exotic also promotes theories that Baskin was involved in the disappearance of Don Lewis. This is a whole another thing. I'm sure they could do another series about this. In fact, don't quote me, but there might be. So Don Lewis was Carol Baskin's husband, but Joe also makes frequent death threats towards her on his internet show in anger against her sanctions. The feud escalates as Baskin organises protests against Exotic, who retaliates by holding big cat shows with cub petting under the trademark knockoffs of Big Cat Rescue logo, which is Carol Baskin's logo. So Big Cat Rescue sues over these trademark infringements and they actually won a whopping $1 million settlement against Joe Exotic. That is a ridiculous amount of money. So after the lawsuit, Joe Exotic and his zoo spiral out of control, suffering many personal, financial and business losses. Eventually, Exotic attempted to hire someone to murder Carol Baskin, resulting in the arrest and the later conviction. because he's currently in jail as we speak. So I'll do a few words on what I think. I think the programme's really good. The only thing for me is that why is this allowed? Why are people allowed to buy big cats, tigers, lions, and keep them as pets? That's just absolutely ridiculous for me. So I really think that something should be done about that. In terms of Carol Baskin, her husband disappeared. I think she might have actually fed him to tigers. I don't suppose anyone's going to know this. It's never going to come out. In terms of Joe Exotic, he had 2 husbands. He married, all 3 of them got married at the same time. Apparently the boys that he married were quite young, as in 17, and they weren't actually gay, but they liked the lifestyle because they were buying them drugs and just like keeping them occupied, if you like, and keeping the habits fulfilled, definitely. In fact, one of his husbands ran off with the receptionist of the zoo, which was a lady, and they had a baby, I believe. So that's not very gay to me. However, I actually like Joe Exotic, but I think he got messed up somewhere along the way. His hatred for Carol Baskin is something that has turned into some kind of issue. Do I think he planned for a murder? I'm not sure. Do I think there's quite a lot of evidence throughout it that suggests he did? Then most likely, yeah. Right, we'll move on to the critics. That's my version. So the critics are, so one person says it's a train wreck and it's criticised for a lack of depth that turns into an increasingly empty exercise. And then someone says, like what I've said, so there weren't actually many critics on this, by the way. I couldn't find many, but this is another one. What's more serious is the way the series skips over the treatment of the animals in Joe's care. Most of the tigers that we were around were subjected to abject cruelty, which is exactly what I say. And it wasn't just Joe Exotic. Anyone that had a zoo, them tigers are subject to cruelty because they should just not be in cages, and that's just my opinion. Right, so that's number 1, which is Tiger King. So moving on to number 2. Okay, so number 2 is Stranger Things, which you've all probably watched before as well. If not, then where have you been? So Stranger Things is an American science fiction drama horror web television series. It's set in the 1980s. It's in the fictional town of Hawkins in Indiana. The first season focuses on the investigation into the disappearance of a young boy amid supernatural events occurring around the town, including the disappearance of a girl with, I can't say this, psychokinetic abilities. Yeah, probably should not go like that, but here we are. So they took inspiration from strange experiments that took place during the Cold War and real-world conspiracy theories involving secret government experiments. The nearby Hawkins National Laboratory performs scientific research for the United States Department of Energy, but secretly does experiments into the paranormal and supernatural, including those that involve human test subjects. Inadvertently, they have created a portal to an alternate dimension, which is called the Upside Down. So I've actually done a series overview on this because I like it that much. So the first season begins in November 1983 when Will Myers is abducted by a creature from the Upside Down. His mother Joyce and the town's police chief Jim Hopper go and search for Will. At the same time, a young psychokinetic girl called 11 escapes from the laboratory and assists Will's friends, which are Mike, Dustin and Lucas, in their own efforts to go and find Will. The second season is set 1 year later, starting in October 1984, where Will has been rescued, but few know of the details of the events. When it is discovered that Will is still being influenced by entities from the Upside Down, his friends and family learn there is a larger threat to the universe from the Upside Down. So the third season, this is how many's out, there's 3 seasons. So the third season is set several months later, in the days leading up to the 4th of July celebration in 1985. So the new Starcourt Mall has become the centre of attention for Hawkins residents, putting most of the stores out of business. Hopper becomes increasingly concerned about 11 and Mike's relationship while still trying to care for Joyce. Unbeknownst to the town, a secret Soviet laboratory under the Starcourt Mall seeks to open the gateway to the Upside Down, which allows the entities from the Upside Down to possess people in Hawkins and creating a new horror to deal with. So it sounds crazy, and it is. My point of view in it all is, I thought it was really good. I'm not sure what the age is, but I feel like children can watch it, maybe older children. However, I wouldn't let my older children watch it. It is all like pretend stuff, so none of it is going to be real. But it's kind of funky how it's set back in the day. And then this girl, 11, has all these powers. She turns out to really get on with the group, and they all become good friends. So the critics for it, one person says it's too predictable. I'm not sure how you can say it's too predictable. There's monsters in this other universe called the Upside Down. How is that predictable? I don't know. Someone says it goes from being really interesting, deep and unique show in seasons 1 and 2. And then it turns into a generic, bland and very predictable high school show in season 3. I kind of get where they're coming from to some extent. I always think seasons 1 and 2 tend to be the best out of everything. And then it kind of goes to like filling seasons, people just like thinking of stuff to just do to fill a season up. So I do kind of get that. And then it says nothing really changes in the story. And then someone says it became a little cheesy. But I mean, I suppose it's always been cheesy. That's the type of series it is, a cheesy series. So there's nothing new there. And that's kind of why we love it. It's one of the reasons why we love it. Okay, so my number 3. All this talking is making me so thirsty. So my number 3 is Top Boy. So Top Boy is a British television crime drama series. So Dushane, who's one of the guys, he has fled to Jamaica where he is getting by working in his cousin's car rental shop when he makes a business deal with an imprisoned drug lord named Sugar.
No, it's not Alan Sugar.
He then returns to Summer House to sell Sugar's products and become Top Boy once again. However, a new crew from London Fields, headed by the ruthless Jamie, won't stand for Dushane stepping on their turf. Sully is in prison and is caught in a power struggle with Murdy, who is a murderous drug dealer who ran the rival London Field gang in Dushane and Sully's absence. But when Sully is released, he reconnects with Jason and begins selling in Ramsgate. Meanwhile, Driss, there's a lot of names here. Meanwhile, Driss has suffered a stroke that has left him partially disabled. He struggles with responsibilities upon Dushane's return. Jamie attempts to assert his dominance in his borough, driven to provide for his younger brothers while Dushane attempts to regain control. So I think this is a really good insight into London, into the drugs, into the crime, what goes on. I think it's very believable, but it's going off a big block of flats. And then all gangs kind of get together, outside the flats, in the bottom areas, like the paths, the ginnels, the like steps, all that kind of stuff. I don't know, I just kind of like it, and I do think it could be quite realistic. So the critics for Top Boy are, apart from the convincing setting, this was by far the worst acting and dialogue I have seen in a while. Wow. Screenplay feels like the most wannabe try hard, cringy dialogue and
gangster
talk. And who casted all these people who very clearly lack acting experience? Abrupt conversations with mechanically timed responses. God, they're going in deep. And the last bit says, some of the plot device is so generic, it's insane. Okay, so some people really do not like Top Boy. But what I would say is, if you like me, which I'm quite a crazy lunatic with what I like gangs, drugs, prisons, just typical things like this, then I think you'll like it. It's definitely worth a watch. Right, so my number 4 is Ozark. So I am currently watching Ozark right now. There's 3 seasons and I am on season 3 and maybe halfway through. So I feel like I've watched enough to be able to give my opinion on it. So a little rundown. Ozark is an American crime drama. It's about a married couple who are forced to relocate their family to the Ozarks to launder money for a Mexican drug cartel. Financial advisor Martin, who's called Marty Bird, suddenly relocates his family from the Chicago suburb to the summit resort community of the Ozark Beach, Missouri. After a money laundering scheme for a Mexican drug cartel goes wrong, Martin must make amends by setting up a bigger laundering operation in the Lake of the Ozarks. When the birds arrive in Missouri, they become entangled with local criminals, including the Langmores and the Snells. So this is basically set at the Lake of the Ozarks. I'm assuming that's a real place in America. I don't know. My opinion is I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I literally watch 1 or 2 every night while I'm in bed. So I have got through this quite quick. Since lockdown, I've been on Ozark. It's quite funny actually because Marty is such like almost a really kind, innocent, sweet guy who's just got caught up in all this. His wife turns out to be a bit of a bitch and she takes lead. But Marty's like so apologetic if someone gets beat up because like the work through is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to help this make this up to you. I'm going to make this up to you. Let me give you some money. I'm so sorry. Whereas like normal gangsters or whatever probably won't be bothered. There's a lot of different things going on. It's not just the same thing. Like there's money laundering, which is basically the whole thing. But then there's lots of other things in between. So it doesn't really get boring in terms of it's just money laundering, if you know what I mean. So the critics for Ozark are, not only does Ozark feel unoriginal and tired, but it comes across as a vanity project for star executive producer Jason Bateman. So he's the star and the executive producer. But I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that means anything towards it. I think he does amazing in producing it and acting it. It says, dark drama wants to be Breaking Bad, but it isn't up to par. Again, I don't think so because I don't actually like Breaking Bad. So if it's anything that's trying to be Breaking Bad, then I'm not going to like it. 'Cause I literally watched about 4 episodes of Breaking Bad and I just thought, this is stupid. And then it says, Ozark has the potential to be many interesting things, and the fact that it commits to none of them feels like overextension. God, some people are proper brutal, aren't they? Anyway, now we're on to the last one for today's episode because I feel like I've gone on way too much already. So, number 5. Okay, so number 5 for today's is Narcos, Pablo Escobar. So, Narcos is an American crime drama web television series. It's set and filmed in Colombia. The series is based on the story of drug kingpin Pablo Escobar, who became a billionaire.
That's not millionaire, that's billionaire.
Through the production and distribution of cocaine. The series also focuses on Escobar's interactions with the drug lords and the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA agents. It shows the life of Pablo Escobar from the late 1970s when he first began manufacturing cocaine to July 1992. The show relates the main events that happened in Colombia during this period and Escobar's relationship to them. It is told through the perspective of Steve Murphy, who's an American DEA agent working in Colombia. The series shows how Escobar first became involved in the cocaine trade in Colombia. He was an established black marketeer in Medellin, moving trucks worth of illegal goods, which were like alcohol, cigarettes, household appliances, into Colombia during a time when this was strictly forbidden. When introduced to Mateo Cockroach Moreno, a Chilean exile and underground chemist, who pitched the idea that they go into business together, with Moreno producing and Escobar distributing a new profitable drug, cocaine. They expand beyond Moreno's small cocaine processing lab by building additional larger labs in the rainforest and using the expertise of Carlos Leder. Transport their product in bulk to Miami, where it gains notoriety amongst the rich and famous. Soon enough, Pablo develops larger labs and more extensive distribution routes into the United States to supply growing demand, with cocaine's growth into a drug of importance into the American market, one that accounts for a large flow of US dollars to Colombia and escalating drug-related violence in the United States. The Americans send a task force from the DEA to Colombia to address all these issues. Murphy is partnered with Javier Pena. The purpose of Murphy's task force is to work with the Colombian authorities, which is led by Colonel Carrillo, to put an end to the flow of cocaine into the United States. The season ends with Escobar's escape from prison. Okay, so that's not how all the seasons end. If you're familiar with Pablo Escobar, he actually gets shot. The DEA finally catch him after years and years and years of trying to get him, and they kill him. I actually remember watching this, and I watched Narcos quite a while ago now, but I actually remember him like literally killing him. He tried to run over these roofs and they literally just shot him dead there, which I suppose they're going to do. But I absolutely love Narcos. Narcos is one of those things where I would watch again. I can't watch many things again and again and again, but Narcos I absolutely would do. He also, when it says he escapes from prison, it's not just any prison. He actually tells the police get him. I think the police are in it as well, some of them, and the government and things. And he says to the police, basically, look, I will go to prison if you let me build my own prison, if you let me have my own guards there, if you let me choose which prisoners come in. So they must have agreed because he built his own prison. But this wasn't a prison. This was literally him just running like a massive mansion full of criminals. They had the family coming, visiting vans. I'm sure they were like an escape tunnel underneath. This was more like a party house than a prison for him. But it's really interesting because obviously it is a true story. So it's interesting to see that a lot of this actually happened. Right, so the critics are, it's a breezy tour through history, sometimes informative but rarely effective. Half of the facts are completely distorted in the entire story. They portrayed Escobar as the person who started trafficking when coke was already big 10 years before him. Enjoyable but lacking perspective. The bad accents and some big mistakes with historic facts damage Narcos. If you're like me and you don't really know the facts around Narcos, I don't. I know of Pablo Escobar, I know he was this big cocaine drug kingpin, but I don't know the facts, I don't know the ins and outs. So to me, I didn't think, oh my God, that didn't even happen. If you do know them, then maybe it's not worth watching if you're just going to be sat there going, that didn't happen. But I didn't, and I really enjoyed it. And then the very last one says, it's a great story, but it's gone to waste. Guys, there's some tough critics around in this world, let me tell you. Okay, I am going to leave it there. This is way too long. You can imagine how long the first one was when I filmed 10 top picks. So stay tuned for part 2. I'll put that up at some point. And if you did like this video, please do like and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.